Welcome, everyone. I'm Jeffrey Goodman, Director of Marketing and Development for the YMCA of Northwest Louisiana, and we're here at 318 Latino Studios for Shreveport-Bossier, my city, my community, my home. And we have a super special guest today. Our guest is Poetic X. Poetic?
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Yes.
Of course.
Yes,
well,
it's an honor.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, sir.
Well, Poetic, you are, let's start here today. You are Caddo Parish's Poet Laureate.
Yes, I am.
You grew up, and if I get anything wrong, please correct me, but you grew up in Shreveport's Lakeside / Allendale neighborhoods.
Yes, sir.
And I'm always curious to hear the stories of how people first discover a passion. So if you could, take me through the beginning of when you first became interested in poetry and spoken word.
For me, it started, I was in my youth, and I would write poetry. First, it was for my mother. The poems would be for my mother. It was a fence on the side of my house, and it was these nice flowers. I don't know the name of those flowers, but I frequently picked those flowers, and I would give her a poem with those flowers. So that started it for me.
And what age are we talking about?
I probably was about 9 then, 8, 9, or 10 years old, you know, and I found that was a way for me to find my voice, to speak. Educators, you know, and mentors have always been a part, you know, of me also finding myself in poetry. Librarians have always been a part of it. There was a lady by the name of Miss Inocencio. She was a teacher at Booker T. She kind of got me into poetry as well. Miss Hebert.
How these mentors or these teachers or these librarians, like how did they get you into
poetry? She would give me an assignment outside of the normal assignments in the classroom, and I would write the poems, bring them back, and I wouldn't get graded on the actual assignment in the class. So my assignment was just to write the poem, and it would be equivalent to whatever the homework assignment was. So, you know, it was moments like that, you know, and I always had someone as I advanced to another stage or phase in life. Someone always showed up with an interest for me in writing poetry. There was a lady named Miss Hebert, Julia Hebert, that she was a librarian as well, and she taught me the Dewey Desmond system. But I'm not as savvy with the Dewey Desmond system right now, and I would write poems, and she would send these poems off to these different locations for me. And I would be excited about the responses, and she would, you know, and she was one that had me write my first poem for an anthology. And I was excited to get accepted in that anthology. That was in '99, you know, so.
And do you think, are they, like, these teachers that are taking an interest in you, are they taking an interest because you're telling them this is something I'm interested in, or are they taking an interest in you because they're seeing what you're delivering and they're saying, I think he has a talent for this, I want to help cultivate that? I
do. And I also think that, you know, your upbringing, some of those teachers early on could tell that my upbringing was different, you know, where I was raised, but you know, had a passion for speaking, had a passion for language arts, for education, you know, for learning. And I think that they saw that, and then they, you know, put a little extra effort into me pulling it out. You know.
Love that. Okay. Well, I'm going to lean on you for some words of wisdom in these next 2 questions.
Okay.
So many folks are intimidated by 2 things, and I'm curious, like I said, to hear your words of wisdom. First, for people who are intimidated by poetry, who view it as a foreign language and have a hard time understanding what they're reading, do you have any advice for them?
Well, I'm into the science that comes along, you know, with poetry. So the space for persons to just actually, learn and get to know, poetry is always there. Persons don't always, access poetry as they should. I'm big on the mysticism that comes along with poetry. There's a lot in between spaces that we really don't identify. So no, I don't think that, a person think it's foreign. They maybe that learning can be boring to persons. Certain persons have a short attention spans. Poetry causes for attention. It causes for close observations. And then being able to document those observations to put back puzzle pieces over time. So if you're not willing to do that, maybe then you may look at it as boring, or it may be foreign, but it's not foreign to us. Our body, our composition, our DNA, our genetic code, that's not foreign. So like riding a bicycle, like how do you get someone to take that first step? Into writing poetry?
Or reading it. Not necessarily writing, but just, looking at this thing on a page and going, okay, that looks different than anything else I've ever read, but I'm not gonna be scared of it. Okay. Like I'm gonna form a relationship with it.
Well, I get them to see themselves in it. The first is, to see them. Again, some person may don't read poetry because it's not exciting. They don't see themselves. But they can identify with their own experiences. So, I can take experiences that persons may relate to and then get them to connect to poetry or want to read poetry. And then from there, I'm big on etymology, and etymology is always a microscopic way to get persons interested in poetry, because what they think they know, they find out they don't know it. And what you think you see is not always what you saw.
Can you give me an example of how you, like, let's say I'm coming to you and I say Poetic. I love hearing you speak. I love the feeling I get from you. But whenever I sit down and try and read a poem, I can't do it. Like, help me out. Like, sit down next to me and help me to start cracking this code.
Okay, well, I would take the human body and persons I know they are interested in themselves. So, sometimes you got to trick persons to learn, or, whatever kind of mechanism you have to use. But I use car, for instance. Persons are familiar with a car, but car is also related to cardio and the heart. And in the scriptures, it also said that Jesus, that is a carpenter. So I'm big on etymology, and the prefix there is car. So now persons were able to see themselves in a relation more than just Jesus, dad, and a carpenter, or Jesus Christ, and get lost in religion. But then now they want to see more of how they have been engineered. How can they sustain themselves, their longevity, how to maintain a healthy heart by observation of poetry. Because the solutions are there, we just don't identify with them so much because we have to move, to and fro. But the ability to learn is always there. The Creator, the universe, never leaves us. It's a burning desire every day for the universe to introduce us to a higher essence of ourselves. That's the main goal, and that's poetry.
And I was going to ask you something, I lost my thought for a second. Oh, etymology. For people hearing that word for the first time, define etymology as you understand it, just so when people hear you use that word, which you may use again, they're following what you're talking about.
Well, it's the study of the origin of words, the history of words, what periods and time those words come from, the languages of those words. Physicians use two parts. When we say about the body, physicians use two parts. In etymology, a physician is still one that fixes the sick. So we have to find what fixes. So you have a prefix and a suffix. It's what physicians use. Any physical experiment with rational thinking will give me an accurate answer. So this is a prefix and a suffix, you know, and being able to just put them together, we can hear sound more than we think, you know. And I have a passion to help persons understand that, because sometimes it seems complex, but my goal is to simplify matters. I can teach atom, electron, and nucleus and protons to kindergartners.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna lean on you again. You are a multi-creative. And what I mean by that, you've written fiction and nonfiction.
Yes, sir.
Created music, performed spoken word, and been involved in numerous visual art projects. So for people who have something to say, who feel like they have something to say but are reluctant to take those first steps to expressing themselves creatively, what suggestions or words of wisdom could you share with them to empower them to take that first step?
To just begin writing. Again, you know, they're trying to get to know themselves, personally trying to get to know themselves. And, you know, just writing is one of the most overlooked talents that we have. You know, it's there. And if we just, when we hear ourselves at a point of interest, if we just document on a consistent basis, we will see instructions outside of ours. You know, if the more that you take notes, it may seem as though it's scrambled at first, but the picture has more clarity over time. And then you know exactly what the instructions for your life is. You know what to do with relationships. You know, you can foresee the relationship showing up. You know, hydrogen and oxygen come together to make H2O. So persons don't often see that. You know, inside of a nucleus, you have protons and neutrons. That is the amount of ideas that you may have. Every idea has neutrons and protons. On the outside of the idea is signaling molecules. So poetry is right now I'm inside of the nucleus of poetry. You are a signaling molecule. It was a blessing to meet you at the time that I did, because I'm concentrating on poetry, and I'm always paying attention to the persons that make manifest when they make manifest, so that I can look at the notes and then have better instructions of what I should do. So when you appeared, you know, and showed up in the form of poetry, I was glad to be involved, you know. So just helping others to do the same, you know, to take advantage of great relationships, to extend longevity to others' lives. Ultimately, what it would do, it would debunk a lot of mysticism as well.
So just what I hear you saying is you would encourage everyone just to take a pen and put it on paper
and just document and watch what the universe says. You know, don't get off the base, and pay attention to you can be in a box, you know, a closed box. But Jesus lay dormant. It's not so much in the spirituality. It's a crystallized juice or essence. But Jesus Christ lay dormant inside of us until we are able to wake it up. So you can be inside of a box and concentrate. And you can put the box inside of a steel building. Have someone on the outside that observes the outside. But the person that's thinking inside the box, inside the steel building, the persons that are moving on the outside of the steel building are still moving because the thought patterns of the person inside the box. You know, they're always there. And this is what I know, that we can advance society into more of an intelligent society by recovering this language. Before the pandemic, I went through an experience, and I don't have the chart right now, but I began to draw out a chart, and it's called pH balance of the body. But I was given instructions daily, go to this piece of paper, draw out the body, take physical places, demographics and locations, and draw them out where they are equivalent to organs in the body, but tell the story so that persons can understand as above, so below, or how they have been made in my image. You know, and the body is made in two parts, still stemming from poetry. What's done on one side must be done on the other for proper balance. So we have, you know, our left side and the right side, but they are two poetic entities. Our left side is quite different from our right side. The left side is a yard of, it's a work yard. It's the heart, the cardio, it pumps. And the right yard, mainly of the liver, is administration, to administer the law. You know, but these two bodies, they work together so that we can maintain a balance. You know, I'm also big on person understanding poetry of the mind, you know, psychosomatic, mind over the body, or mind can fix body.
Love all that.
Yes,
so
sir.
The diagram that you made, what'd you call it? That you...
pH balance of the body. Hallowed be thy name.
So give me an example of you were saying that
of an organ organs matching certain body parts.
Yeah.
Into those demographics. The digestive system is also equivalent to the courtroom. The intestines equivalent to the courtroom. That which goes through the intestines has to be judged based, and then what there's sentence, but there's also a profit retained, you know, from when one is released or when one is sent through a certain test. So, you know, that is one. The heart and cardio is also dealing with Pharaoh's fire, you know, and it's a heating source. So they say, Pharaoh, let my people go. It's not my Pharaoh is equivalent to fire, P-H-A-R-O-A-H-R-A-O-H. Make sure I'm spelling that right, certainly on camera, but it's the same as fire, F-I-R-E, fire. And we understand more of the body by putting those words back in their proper place and adjusting and fixing, you know, our psyche. The teeth is also equivalent to cemeteries, but not like place of, you know, dead persons. But these are our cements and our stones. And this is a yard of records. And this yard, where we have stones at, also has an equivalent yard in the land that is modeled after the story of Deuteronomy. And Deuteronomy is the shaping of an embryo, but this yard is a den that holds records in the land. So also I'm excited to introduce persons to poetry in the land, not only on paper, because the hills, the rivers, the creeks, the churches, the castles and cathedrals, and every fixation of position is therefore a specific point and place. It's handwriting that's been around in nature for a very long time.
Love that. All right. So as I mentioned earlier, you're Caddo Parish's Poet Laureate. So tell me a little about how one becomes Poet Laureate and some of the opportunities you get to pursue in this role.
Well, I would just say write so consistently, and pray that person want to hear your poetry first. You know, 'cause a lot of persons you can write, but you know, maybe not everybody want to hear it. So, you know, I'm great, but just writing and.
But tell them how you first got designated as Caddo Parish's Poet Laureate, like how that came about.
Well, I was recommended by first John Warner Smith. John Warner Smith at that time was the state Poet Laureate, and the Shreveport Regional Arts Council had a process for current Poet laureates to come up, and John Warner Smith sent the recommendation. The commissioners saw that recommendation, and based on those recommendations, I was selected as Caddo Parish Poet Laureate. I had to go before them.
The first one.
Well, I'm actually the third one. Now, first African American, you know, Poet Laureate. But no,
I'm the third Caddo Parish.
Yes, sir. I'm the extra third poet laureate in the city.
Okay, and as poet laureate, are there things you're expected to do, or what is?
Well,
sort of...
yes, I organize events. I facilitate different events. I manage artists and making sure that they have works published, registered, that there's an outlet for artists to perform. I go into the schools. I work with students from the Poetry Out Loud program. One of the initiatives that I was blessed to be able to embark upon right now with Poet Laureate is put a poem on it. And then that's being able to collaborate with 12 different artists and put a mural in 12 different districts, each in the Caddo Parish. And I'm grateful for that. Commissioner Stephen Jackson was a instrumental, a powerhouse, a voice on me being able to capitalize on that right now, which I'm so grateful for. On
those, I know you've done one at the Highland Center with Paige Powell, yes. I think. Have you done all 12 of them?
I have not yet. Okay. I have not. I actually, this is news right now. I actually have one coming up with Alex Richardson and Whitney Tace as well. And the one with Alex Richardson will be at the Moortown Library on May the 17th. And it's Look Up Child, and he's done an extraordinary design. If persons are familiar with Alex Richardson and the colors that he incorporated, and it looks wonderful. And I wrote a piece for autism. It's called Gold Rush, and Whitney Tates has done a exceptional job on the artwork for that, and can't wait to persons to see those works. But no, I have six more.
Where will that one be, the autism one?
We're hoping that we can get it at Holy Angels. Okay. We're communicating with persons at Holy Angels right now.
Okay, so right now, the one at Highland, are these will be permanent? Is that kind of the idea once they're up?
Yes, sir, to be permanent.
So there's one, right now, as of today, we can see the one at Highland Center.
Highland Center, there's one, the Absolute Equality mural downtown.
That's right, with Cadavian
Baylor. We have the Chimp Life mural at Chimp Haven.
Okay. And these are, correct me if I'm wrong, these are murals that also have poetry by you.
Mm-hmm. And these artists that, I'm a select artist, so I'm honored to work with the artists as well and be able to branch out and expand with poetry, with the artists, because, I'm big on arts as well. Art has been my background, about 15 years now,
So Highland Center, Absolute Equality. Tell me the other one you said.
Highland Center, Absolute Equality. We have one coming up at LSUS as well, American Battalion. It's going to be up May the 17th. So those were the 3 to 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. I hadn't seen the one at Highland Center. I've seen Absolute Equality. It's tremendous.
Okay. Well, then there's the Chimp Haven and American Battalion.
Yeah. Okay.
And then next is Look Up Child and Gold Rush. And I also have been speaking to persons at American Rose Center. So I'm working on a poem for American Rose Center and to collaborate with an artist for that project.
Fantastic. All right, so now I want to kind of get into your creative process a little bit. So my question is, paint a picture of your creative process, and what I mean by this is, how do you decide to create something? Is this something you do daily? Is it spontaneous, or is there real structure every day to what you decide to pour your energies into?
Oh, well, it depends, like whatever that particular, what mood I'm in. Some poems, they may, sporadic, they just inspired sporadic by some event that just took place. Some are based on me being deep into curiosity and seeing how there's a major misunderstanding regarding the subject. Then I'll get to the pen and paper on that. Who, what, when, where, and why. It's a part of the process I get started with to tell the story. Characterizations. I like to empower characters far more than persons may know them as. Often I'm preparing for commission works. I do a lot of those, and with working with commission works, it's always set myself up in a creative workstation. Think about the bottom line of that organization. How can I be of best service to the organization, and not including particularly what I want to say, but to really just hear the organization and be able to implement what it is that they would be happy with. But overall, no, poetry can go on my mind now. I can look at you and see poetry. In my periphery, I can see Haley. Alan. I can say, yeah, Alan. Okay, and still think poetry. The room is it's everywhere. It's hidden in plain sight. So I'm always inspired by some means. A horn can blow and inspire me. A cat can go by, and I may just write a poem then. Yeah.
Is there you have a number of published poems, number of published books of poetry? Is there a type, typically are your poems a certain amount of lines? Are they short? Are they long? Or
well, my performance poems are. My spoken word pieces and poems, they're usually longer. Now for the book Poetic X, those poems are 10-liners, and or X in the book has a distinctive impression somewhere. That's what that's about with the book Poetic X. But you will find a poem with 10 lines. There may be 10 lines left blank for the persons to fill out for themselves. There may be a letter hidden in a poem 10 times. So it's very adventurous. And that series of poetry books will also go to volume 10. But the next one I'm on for that one is Poetic X, volume 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'm down to my last formal question. Like I told you before, I'm going to come back to you on the other end. And anything at all you want to talk about on the other end, these were just my set questions. But my last formal, official question for you is just, I'm curious, as you look out at our community, at this community, what gives you hope that we're headed in a positive direction?
I see everybody growing, in their own rhythm and rhyme. I love Shreveport, and okay, I don't want to just highlight any disconnections, but the disconnections, will ultimately that every city has some, but I do see that. Our city is going to truly prosper. I'm excited to see persons in their different areas and fields, growing more. That shows that, Shreveport is beginning to understand its own mind. You can understand the personality of a city. Like a person can have a personality, and it's exciting to be able to see the personality of Shreveport begin to grow more as, persons dive more into art here, film, fashion, that's taking place. The newer, younger generations and the energy that they're expressing right now. The will for everyone basically to collaborate from all different kind of sectors, is going to set the bar for other cities when trying to compare to Shreveport. I think that entrepreneurship too, more entrepreneurship is going to guide is going to help save the city. Schools are closing. Numerous amount of schools are closing. So I think that we should create our own every neighborhood creates a incubator, communicate with 2-3 sources of persons that they want to build with. And each one of those 3, we can do it as a color code, 12 colors. And each leader assigned 3 in the community to them. So now we have 36, 12, we have 36. And everyone is charged in their responsibilities to oversee some particular task in the neighborhood as well. If it's one is dealing with clothing, someone is dealing with housing, maybe a person needs something with bills, with development. I mean, it's all listed under that color coded, and the personality of Shreveport, we all individually go that way or strive to get our goals accomplished. Sometimes it's more separate than it is as a whole, holistic. But I want to see us do that more, because the city is great. That 50 speak of 50 Cent coming to the city. I don't think that 50 Cent would want to come and over the years where he's grown, now being able to plant a seed here in this city. So I know he has to see that timing in his life was so in alignment and with Shreveport. And Shreveporters need to see that too, because we can lose sight of the city. But this is a great city, and that is why persons are so too attracted to this city, first off. And we have the ability to attract a lot more persons that want to come here. But I would like for us to be stern in our foundation so that when persons come, we don't have to so much just break apart, but we can incorporate or work alongside others, very vigorous, and we can get it done, too. But overall, Shreveport is a great city. I'm interested in seeing musicians at radio stations more, the restaurants thriving more, the events that highlight our entrepreneurs. It's a lot of that takes place here. There's a lot that takes place.
What else? I mean, I just grazed the surface. I know you're involved in much and many and doing great things. What else would you like to touch on or talk about that I didn't ask directly about?
Look, just the city, everyone, we gonna strive to get our goals accomplished. I don't think that we'd have to focus so much on the difference in Shreveport. Again, I love the city. My continual efforts, is to advance the city of Shreveport too, and to work with others that have that same goal, in mind. But let's just look out to our city more. Let's be inspired to collaborate. It doesn't even have to be when we go into a particular organization to collaborate, businesses, but let's just get involved more in the community, revitalize the communities more ourselves, get active. Let's do gardens, I see persons that's trendy now. Persons are doing the gardens, but let's do more of the gardens where we may collaborate one community with another one. I know they have the food market, the person swap food. So that's great in the city. It's a lot of incentives and initiatives back here that really make Shreveport, Louisiana great. And I'm excited to call Shreveport home.
Well, we're fortunate to have you. I feel very lucky to have met you recently, yes, and I appreciate all you're doing and look forward to collaborating with you and helping, hopefully, alongside you, continue to push our city forward.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you asked, okay? You asked about to promote the book. My Poetic X 10, Volume 1 and Volume 2 can be found on Amazon. Both of those books. I just put out a new poetry album. It's called Sip Therapy. And I'm going to submit that album for a Grammy. I'm hoping to, come through for the Grammys next year. The promo is another album that I put out on the 20th. I'm currently in the studio right now working on, which will be 2 projects. But one is I Dream in Poetry, and the other one is Dreamscaping, Poetic Country Rap Blues, New School of Rocks. So these is 2 different projects that I'm excited to work on.
Do you want to share? I am putting you on the spot, but do you want to share a few lines of something with our audience out there? Just a few lines of something you've written or something you're feeling. You don't have to.
Well, trying to just focus and focus on one that I hadn't just recited, you know, somewhere else before. There's much about this life I have yet to learn, but I'm still ambitious. I'm still a product of my environment. I'm still learning how to deal with it. Who to love, who to trust, how to overcome my challenges, how to challenge myself to thrust. I'm not sure about the lonely goodbyes that lies on the roads ahead. Don't know how many miles before I exile. What I do know, I ain't dead. My heart's still pumping, my lungs still function. As long as there's breath in the body, I can be excited about something. Miracles grow in my habitat. Mirrors reflect my mind's reflection. I hope they find where my words at. Maybe they too will start to dream. Maybe the rising and falling of the sun won't set on them so young. Just maybe they too can spread their wings. Some little kid wants to be an astronaut, but if hope never reaches his lungs, it doesn't matter if he's astro or not. Hopefully he can float through the spaces. On Hope's behalf, I'm hoping his spacecraft doesn't break in half. I'm hoping he lands on the bases. Hopefully crime doesn't rob him of his time. If we hurry, we don't have to worry. When Hope arrives, he'll start flying. Plus 1,000 little more astronauts like his kind, relying solely on a wing and a prayer. When Hope arrives, they'll survive. They won't get robbed of fresh air. As long as there's breath in the body, I can be excited about something. My heart's still pumping, my lungs still function. This ain't about quitting. It's about hope, about drive. Our number one responsibility to give hope agility and keep hope alive. And that's a poem. I used to share that every Sunday morning, Keep Hope Alive. And that's on my third poetry album, which is Exclamation Order Poetry.
Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Poetic.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.